titrator is not received with any application software loaded. The software is loaded onto the titrator through a USB drive that comes with the purchase of an application pack. The USB application key is inserted into the titrator and the correct applications can be selected and loaded onto the instrument for use. For this example, the use of the application key LZE130 is demonstrated and the application total chlorine 0.5 to 5 milligrams per liter is loaded. Besides the application software, the USB drive also contains the application notes for each of the loaded applications. It is recommended that these are downloaded and reviewed before setting up the titrator and performing a titration. If this is the first time the USB drive is installed into a PC, the PC will indicate that it is installing device driver software and then will notify that the installation was complete and ready to use. The PC will show a USB drive part number, example LZE130, and drive with the prompt to open folder to view files. If this prompt was not visible, then the drive can be located under My Computer. When the drive is opened, there will be two folders inside named Application Notes and Hach. The Application Note PDF files are located in the Application Note folder. These files can be easily printed, reviewed, or stored onto the PC in a separate location for future use. The application note includes information that is helpful to understand what titration and reagents are necessary to perform the titration, as well as tips and recommendations to perform the titration accurately. Sections of the application notes include a chemistry explanation and principle, what electrode, syringe, and reagents to utilize, the working concentration range of the application, recommendations and tips on technique, how to interpret results, and how to calibrate the electrode or titrant if necessary. Since the titrator is loaded with software to perform the titration, the application note also details the titration software settings, how to modify the application if necessary, and analysis steps to perform the titration. The application package AP0007.AT1122 is used for free and total chlorine, chlorine dioxide, and sulfite in environmental applications. The application package is compatible with the titrator models AT1122 and AT1222. It includes all of the items pictured and an MTC 695 double platinum electrode for redox titrations. This slide details the main items necessary to perform the total chlorine application. A full list of materials is detailed in the application note. In this training example, the USB application key has been installed and the appropriate applications loaded, including the total chlorine analysis that will be demonstrated. The AT1222 model was chosen for this training. The titrant side of this titrator has been prepared. This includes the following. The phenyl arsine oxide or PaO titrant solution was purchased, the bottle caps installed, correct syringe tubing, note the dispensing tip and downward arrow, fed through the bottle cap, and the desiccant cotton-filled tube installed in the bottle cap. The pump side of the titrator has also been prepared. This includes the following. Acetate buffer pH 4 solution was purchased, the bottle cap installed, correct pump tubing, fed through the downward arrow through the bottle cap, and the desiccant cotton-filled tube installed in the bottle cap. The 5 ml syringe detailed in the application note has been installed on syringe port 1. This syringe port corresponds correctly to the location of the application on the first line of the display. The syringe tubing with the anti-diffusion tip from the dispensing side fed to the sensor holder. The pump tubing from the dispensing side, noted with the upward arrow, has also been fed into the sensory holder. Chlorine electrode MTC 695 has been connected to the titrator in the back of the instrument in sensor port 1 and placed in the sensor holder using the electrode sleeve received in the application pack. The following items have been prepared for use, including the potassium iodide swift test, a clean glass graduated cylinder and beaker, a stir bar from the application pack, wash bottle filled with deionized water, a waste container, and a sample to measure. Orientation of the tubing and electrode in the sensor holder is important to note. The tubing and the electrode are orientated across from each other in the sensor holder. The anti-diffusion tip is about the same depth, about 5 to 10 millimeters above the stir bar in the sample beaker. The reagent tubing from the pump is at a higher level, just above the surface of the sample. Using an empty beaker will assist in setting the correct tubing and electrode orientation and depth. In this training, a 5 ml syringe is installed. Detailed in the application notes located under the settings menu and loading the total chlorine method. The syringe information is at the top of the applications page. Syringe setting in the Titrator software uses a 10 ml syringe volume as the default. The syringe size can be changed in the software from the home menu and performing the following steps. First, selecting the maintenance icon, then syringe management, then syringe volume change for the correct syringe port in use, and then selecting the correct syringe volume desired from a list available. The software will then apply the syringe volume change, the volume will be updated, and OK can then be selected. It is recommended to purge the tubing from the syringe and the pump at the start of each day's titrations. If changing syringes, application, and titrants or reagents, performing a purge is also recommended. This purge procedure clears air bubbles from the tubing and the syringe, replaces old solution with fresh solutions, and reduces cross-contamination from different titrants and reagents. Purge function is located on the home screen under the purge icon. Place a waste container under the sensor holder and select the correct position for syringes and pumps to purge, then push start. In this example, the syringe 1 will be purged to correspond to the syringe connected and application loaded. When the syringe purge is selected, the titrator pulls titrant from the titrant bottles and fills the syringe several times. Any air bubbles in the syringe should be evacuated during the filling and dispensing action. Fresh titrant is seen leaving the diffusion tip. Shown in this training is the purging of the reagent connected to the pump. Purging the pump tubing is performed the same way as the syringe by locating the purge icon on the home screen and selecting the correct pump position. When the pump purge is selected, the titrator will cause the pump to activate and a small volume of fresh reagent can be seen to dispense from the pump tubing tip. After purge selection is complete, select OK, then exit out of the purge menu and return to the home screen. From the home screen, select the appropriate application from the choices previously loaded from the USB application key. For total chlorine, there may be more than one application choice. Select an application that details a concentration range close to the expected range of the sample being analyzed. The method screen displayed next will confirm the following settings for this titration procedure, which includes the correct application at the top, the information icon displaying the sample volume, titrant, electrode installed, and any operator and sample information. The check icon details a few steps to prepare before starting the titration. When ready, the titration can be started by selecting the Start soft key. Before the titration can be started, there are 4 steps that need to be performed. Step 1 is to rinse the electrode and tubing tips with deionized water into a waste container and blot the electrode dry using a clean wipe. Steps 2 and 3 accurately measure out 200 ml of sample using a graduated cylinder into a clean glass beaker. For other applications, the amount may be different. Place a clean stir bar into the sample beaker and attach the beaker onto the sensor holder. Lower the sensor holder appropriately is step 4 and select Start. The software will display that the analysis has started and then will prompt the addition of 0.1 gram of potassium iodide to be added. For other applications, the software would prompt the addition of a different reagent or a different action to take place before starting. In this training example, the Swift test is an easy way to add this volume of potassium iodide to the sample by pushing the black button on the dispenser. After the reagent powder is added, select OK on the screen. The software will display that the analysis is in progress, then will detail the addition of a buffer pH 4 reagent using pump number 2. Then stirring will initiate to mix the sample. The software will then display that there will be a delay of 20 seconds before the titration continues. During this time, the sample is mixing and the electrode is being polarized. After the 20 seconds is complete, the software will advance to the real-time results screen. The real-time results screen provides the following information. The displayed graph includes a left axis displaying current in microamps and what the electrode is measuring in the sample while the titrant is added. The bottom axis displays volume of titrant dispensed in milliliters. At the bottom of the display is the actual values of the following: the total volume of titrant added in milliliters, the current in microamps, the analysis time in seconds that has elapsed since the start of the titration, and the temperature of the sample as measured by the electrode. Also, the stirring rate percentage is provided and can be adjusted using the Titrator keypad. The application note details the principle or theory behind this chlorine titration method. In this principle, it states that this is an amperemetric titration, meaning that the titration endpoint is defined by monitoring current. This titration method is looking for an equivalence or endpoint where the current is steady and no longer changing. This graph is displaying a pattern of dropping current over time as titrant volume is added to the sample. The chemical explanation of this graph is the following. As PaO is added to the sample, the free iodine is reduced to iodide at the cathode, and PaO is oxidized to a higher oxidation state and measured at the anode using an oxidation reduction potential, or ORP electrode. When these two species are present at the two poles of the electrode, there is a current flow. As the free iodine concentration becomes less, the solution becomes less conductive, and the measured current drops. The endpoint is determined when there is no change in current, signaling that all the total chlorine has been reacted to oxidize the PaO. Eventually, you will see a flat line occur on the graph. The point where it becomes flat is the equivalence point or endpoint and is used by the software to calculate the concentration of chlorine in the sample. When the software has measured the endpoint of the titration, it will automatically stop any further titrant addition and will stop the analysis. The titrator will display processing result and advance to a results screen. The total chlorine concentration results are detailed in green, as well as the sample temperature and the time duration of the titration analysis. The black dot at the bottom of the screen indicates that there is subsequent screens of information. By using the arrow keys on the keypad, the second screen can be displayed. In this application, the second screen displays the final curve, highlighted endpoint, titrant volume, and current measured when the endpoint was achieved. If measuring more samples, then the next button can be selected. If there is no other samples to be measured at this time or using this application, then exit can be selected. Once exit is selected, the software will display that the analysis results were saved and will turn to the home screen.